Welcome to another episode of the Family Order podcast, and today we are very excited to bring you our special guests, Catherine O'Brien and Rick Heyer.
Hayer.
What?
Higher.
Higher.
Oh, I said it wrong. We already messed it up. Okay, wait, we're going to start over.
Society's family unit is in crisis as less and less people are making the commitment of a lifelong partnership together. It has been normalized, encouraged, and easier than ever to just throw in the towel when the going gets tough. With time at a premium, start by spending 20 minutes per week gaining thought-provoking inspiration towards a journey of self-improvement, ultimately improving your marriage, your family, your health, and your home. Welcome to another episode of the Family Order podcast, and today we are very excited to bring you our special guests, Catherine O'Brien and Rick Heyer. Catherine is a licensed marriage and family therapist, a Gottman educator, and she has worked in psychology for over 15 years. Welcome to the podcast today. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. So, Catherine and Rick, you're the mother and father of two children. Catherine, you're obviously a very devoted wife and passionate about helping new parents and couples with their relationship, since it is your career. So you have a great background in helping people with their marriages and families and potential issues. And for today, you also wrote the book, Happy with Baby, which we're going to kind of dive into a little bit.
Right. Yeah. We read through the book a little bit ourselves, a few different times. We liked certain chapters so much we went back over them a couple times. We related to a lot of different sections, and just even some of the ways that you worded things were really we felt a connection to, I guess, and found it very entertaining. But we were really interested why you wanted to bring Rick in too, and get sort of maybe a male perspective.
Not just the interview, the book.
Sure.
Rick has some really funny excerpts in the book.
Right. So what was important about that perspective to you?
Well, so the book was originally a workshop that I had developed with another childbirth educator. And we had developed this workshop and we taught it together. And then she was no longer able to teach it with me. And in the meantime, I know this bug. There's like a bug. I had Rick help me kind of go through the information, because I knew it was couples coming to the workshop and I wanted to make sure I was presenting information that both partners could relate to. So as he was like kind of helping me, he had some really good insights, and I was like, gosh, I really wish you were teaching this workshop with me. And he's like, yeah, I would do that. And so when the opportunity came that I wanted another co-facilitator, he joined me, and now we've been teaching it. This is going into our 12th year of teaching it together. Wow. And we got the book out, and I thought, like, if I have him as part of the workshop, I really wanted to have his insight in the book as well. I thought it's just valuable just to have the other partner's perspective, because it's not about just one person and a baby, it's the family. So
sure.
Exactly. And so your book is basically broken up into 3 sections: taking care of baby, taking care of yourself, and taking care of your relationship. And the taking care of your relationship section is the one that really caught our attention. Kind of what we talk about a lot on this podcast is marriage, family, health, and home. And so we loved a lot of the titles of the chapters and different ways that your guys' personality really came through in the book. Obviously, you're not allowed to curse. I think I told Catherine when we talked earlier that the one part that just had me like literally LOLing was when in Rick's excerpt, something when he was like, I figured out I was totally full of shit. And I'm like, that's me. You have to be like so blunt and forward, because it is talking about your relationship, and it's not always, sunshine and butterflies and rainbows and stuff. And especially when you bring in the baby. So.
Right. And Rick, you're not a therapist or have a background in that, correct?
I'm not. I'm an attorney, which I do represent a bunch of marriage and family therapists. So, okay. Of course, I'm married to Catherine. I've been around the profession for a long time, but no, I'm not a therapist.
Okay.
Your
But I can
husband.
speak like one. I can fake it.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem. You can function in that arena if you need to.
Yeah.
So I guess before we get into some of the specifics of certain chapters in the book, or we dive a little bit deeper, I think it was interesting that you really talk a lot about in a certain section of the book about putting your relationship on the back burner a bit. And when the baby comes, we put all this energy and time and preparation into getting ready for the baby, right? And then after that, the relationship sort of gets put on the back burner. So in your experience, why do you think that happens so often in relationships, that when a baby comes, we sort of forget about the marriage part a little bit, or maybe not forget about it, but it becomes a little bit less of a priority?
Do you want to go?
Well, so the lay person answering that, my perspective is that it's easy, right? You got the hard thing, which is this baby, in which most people come into, at least never being a parent. Maybe they've had some childcare, but never been the parent before. So it's scary and exhausting, and all the things that go into that first year with a new baby. So that I think if people aren't being conscious about it, it's very easy to take for granted the relationship.
Sure.
What do you
I like
think?
that, being conscious about it.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree. I mean, because there is so much newness and it's overwhelming and so much changes, right? And we're exhausted. We mentioned that a lot in the book. And so it's like, whatever energy I have goes into the thing that is the hardest, that I don't know what I'm doing. And I think sometimes, especially if we've been in the relationship for a while, we think like, okay, well, I know how to do this. And I just kind of forget, I just don't put any more energy into it because we don't have the time or the energy to do it. And so I think it's then going back and being like, wait, I need to continue to nurture this relationship, because it's not like it can sustain without taking care of it long term.
Exactly. Ben and I have talked about that too, because we were married. We were together 7.5 years, married for 5 of those before our first daughter came along. We literally never fought. And I was a teenager when we met. Okay, I was a hormonal teenager, and we still never fought. And then it seemed like after our daughter was born, not her fault or anything, but it seemed like things just got to you. It was so much harder to not fight. I guess.
Yeah, it was actually work now. We didn't have to work at it before.
Yes.
Right.
I think that's very true. I mean, because we had so much time together. Like at the end of the day, we would eat dinner together or go for walks or do whatever we wanted to do it. And we had an abundance of time with each other.
Right.
And then it became, we might have been spending time together, but we were so focused on doing different things that we weren't connecting.
Right. And then I know we talk about it in the book, but I think also there's the idea that, I know I am working really hard and I just wish you would start doing it too. And so that puts a strain on the relationship too. And that was what happened to us, is that we got into that kind of mindset and weren't really talking to each other. And that was, it's putting the relationship kind of on autopilot and then also adding the stress to it. So, and if you're not really conscious about taking care of the relationship, it suffers, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, one thing for us too, that we didn't realize, which is for a different discussion, is the postpartum that I suffered from, that came out of the blue to me, I guess, but not to other people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was interesting in the book you mentioned, I hadn't really read up enough on this maybe to be aware that there are a number of men that suffer from this as well. I think, was it around 10%? I think you mentioned.
Yeah. So up to 20% of women will suffer from a mood or anxiety disorder, and up to 10% of men. But if their partner has it, then the percentage goes up to 50%. So I think it's
right.
I mean, it's important, which is understandable because it does impact in so many different ways. And I think just speaks to how much we need like other support beyond just our partner in having a baby, which we talk about too. It's like, it's hard to just do it alone, especially right now. I know that's been the case too, but I think as parents and in families, there's just not enough support for them.
And I think an important thing is these numbers are all reported, right?
Yeah.
Probably much higher than what the statistics tell us, because I think there's still some shame and stigma around the idea, certainly for women, but I think probably more so for a dad to come and say, I'm depressed, I'm feeling bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try asking off from work because you need a mental health day and you get looked at a little bit funny.
Right.
Still,
They already get made fun of for like sympathy weight, like,
Yeah.
Right.
They don't want to admit that
That's
that
what I
they're
blame it
going
on.
through other things too,
It's still
Right.
sympathy weight. It still is.
Yes.
my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely think it's important that we remember that, as parents, when we have a kid, that it all started with the two of us, that started this whole thing, and we can't forget about that completely.
Yeah, I mean, and starting, obviously one of the important things that we talk about a lot in our podcast is date night.
Yes.
So did you guys get date night this last week? I know you wanted to.
Well, see, our children now are at the age where it's a lot easier to go. And my mom lives with us, so we have date night at least once a weekend usually.
Yeah.
Nice.
Even
but
with
yeah,
the dog?
Yeah. But yeah, we did get date night. It was like, and they want us to go. Our
Yeah.
kids are at the point where they're like, please go out on.
They're
a date
actually
night.
very,
Yeah, that's
very pissed if we don't go.
Yeah. They're like, why are you here?
Yeah, they feel smothered. Yeah.
yeah. We need some
Let's get
time.
out of here.
Yeah.
Which it was really hard when everything was closed. Like, how do you get space and time
Yeah.
for yourselves? And I think it is like figuring out creative ways to do that too. And as hard as I think things have been, with the pandemic and everything, I think one of the good things that have come out of it too is there's a lot more online classes and options. And I'm like, it could be fun, to like take a new class, do something different together, like a cooking class or, a dance class or whatever. I'm trying to talk Rick into doing some kind of dance class.
Online dance class.
I'm not against the idea of a dance class. I am against the idea of a virtual dance class. That just seems.
It is very different. I mean, yeah, we didn't really, date night is something that has been recently very beneficial for us. It was few and far between before, especially during the pandemic timeframe, but now we actually do make it a priority for once a week. We didn't get ours this week because we were technically supposed to be out of town right now, but we didn't end up getting to go. And so there were no babysitters left. But we watched a movie last night. So, I mean, that counts. It doesn't always have to be some big extravagant, type of thing. So,
and I think it's about making that intentional time. Like, even if it is home and the kids are in bed and you're like, hey, we're going to sit down and do something together, I mean, I think movies are great. I don't let them always be like the go-to, because then there's like no communication and talking and things like that. And I think that's really important. But sometimes it's like we're really tired and we just want to lay, sit on the couch, and I would fall asleep watching a movie. But, for some people that works.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
We have a 9 and a half tomorrow.
Yeah. Very important. 9.5.
Yes. And then an 18-month-old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Lost track of time.
Yeah. Lost track of time in between them.
She said, you see what happened last time. So
yeah. So, I mean, and even so, like connecting, we like to go on walks.
Yes.
A lot. That is like our time to like talk and, and dream and everything. Is like I said, it doesn't always have to be like trying a new restaurant or going to a concert or, something big and lavish.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys live in California, which is probably gorgeous, but we're just now starting to get into what we call false fall here in the Midwest. We're not done with summer. It's called false fall.
get your hopes up.
Where are you guys at?
Kansas City.
Kansas. Okay.
Yeah. So, so we're able on date night, we're able to talk about, we make a conscious effort to talk about real stuff.
Right.
and not just our to-do list. Because we
Yeah.
talk about our to-do list all day, every day.
Right. Right.
So, that's probably one of the more important things for us. But is there anything important that you guys talk about on date night, or is it kind of the same?
I think we try very consciously as well to not make it all about like what happened this week at school or what happened at the house. That Catherine has a busy practice, I have work, and that's a time for us to talk about things that have come up there that we haven't had a chance to share with each other.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about things that we want to do or goals that we have, or future, talk about either going away or family vacations and things to look forward to also.
And obviously about other people. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
There's so many different options. I mean, I guess we didn't get a date night, but technically we got a day date on Friday.
Mhm.
He took Friday off because we were supposed to be gone, but our nanny was here in the morning. And so we went and looked at model homes.
Oh, fun.
And so we go through and we like, oh my God, this is so builder grade. Like, what is this? I mean, it's quite a few years down the road, but I mean, it didn't cost us anything, and we're honest with the people. We're like, we're looky loos. Like, we're on a date, and
Right.
we're just gonna
No, I
watch
love
him.
that. I think it doesn't always have to be in the evening. It's like figuring out what works best. I talk to people and their schedules, they have opposite schedules. So they have to be even more creative about how do we find time to get together,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. And we also looked at one of the sections of the book that really shined to us was talking about the different learning curves.
Mm.
And each parent has a different learning curve. And we experienced that for sure. We've seen it with many other couples that the mom or the dad or, whatever, they're just on a different level. They may be more advanced with one thing, maybe a little bit behind on the other. But there's a lot of expectations. And I think in many cases, a major lack of communication.
Yeah.
You just sort of assume that the other person knows the things that like this is where all the diapers go. They go this way. And you just should know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, isn't it obvious?
Right. There's
Yeah.
my way. And then there's the wrong way.
Yes.
Yeah. And learning curve is a nice way of saying, why are you doing it differently than I do it the right way, and why don't you?
Yes.
Sure.
Well, and because of an issue that comes up a lot in the work that I do with couples, in sessions, but then in our workshops, and then we also do some intensives with couples, is there is usually one person seems to have a little bit of experience and they're going into it, maybe a little bit more confident than the other person. And it's like, how do we support each other? But then also, how do I let you figure things out on your own without critiquing how you're doing it and whatever. Rick had more experience. He had siblings that were much younger, so he had experience changing diapers. And I remember the first time he left me home alone, the next day, after we got home from the hospital with our oldest, and I was like, "You're gonna be gone for 2 hours? I really hope he doesn't need a diaper." And I remember just sitting in the rocking chair, holding him, thinking, "Please don't cry. Please don't go to the bathroom. Please don't need to eat. Why your dad is gone?" Because I'm just I don't know that I can handle having to get up from this chair, and I'm just gonna sit here and rock the whole time. But then it gets the more you do it, you kind of you've got a lot of opportunities to practice. And it got easier, but then I was home and Rick had gone back to work. So there were things that I did all the time and more frequently, and I kind of knew cues for sleep and stuff like that. And then it's how do you communicate these things to your partner without, in a way that doesn't feel judgmental or critiquing, but more hey, I've figured out how this works, and how do we support each other? Or, they're going to try to put the baby down, and let them figure it out, because it's going to be different for him to put the baby down than it is going to be the way I put the baby down. And, giving that opportunity to work that out without coming in to rescue, because then if I do that, it's always going to be my job, and I'm going to get tired of it and resentful and want a time off. You know, there's going to be one time where I don't want to have to do it at bedtime. I want to go meet up with some friends or whatever.
I think one thing that we were lucky about, and not necessarily anything we talked about, but I don't think either one of us felt like just because a baby was crying, we had to swoop in and do a rescue, for the most part, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I remember times like that. I guess I would just come up with these things in my head, and I still do, honestly, because we still take turns putting our 18-month-old to bed. And in my head, I feel like if I don't sing all 3 of these songs all the way through, he's not going to go to bed. He's going to know I skipped a verse, and it's, and it's not good, but then you have to remember, like, he doesn't sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And he puts the baby to bed, and he still goes to sleep.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because with our youngest, I don't know how it happened, but for the first year and a half, I thought that the only way she would go to sleep is if I walked with her, and I had wherever I was going, we were home, there was a set route, and I would count 100 steps one way and then 100 steps the other. And why 100, I don't know. But I really felt like if I don't have 100 or 200 steps, there's no way this child's going to sleep. And of course, I'm the only one that ever counted how many steps they were doing. But
well, I would count the steps. I just didn't have to have it be a number.
Oh, did you count?
I would count just because it was like, I was
something
like,
to do.
My grandma walking up and down the block, because we would have the witching hour that would, like, she'd be keeping up our son. So we would like go outside and hope that she would fall asleep as we walked her up and down the block.
Sure.
So I counted.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See what I learned on the
podcast.
So it's really hard for me to not like micro manage him, like, oh no, you need to hold him this way, and his blankie goes here, and put the binky on your pinky so that you have extra, so like, what are some ways that a spouse can like not micromanage or be micromanaged?
Yeah, because it's really easy to communicate when you're on a solid 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
You're always patient when you're feeling really tired.
I think that for us, that if it was my turn or if it was Catherine's turn or whatever we had worked out, that, okay, I don't need to be watching you like that. Now you're in charge. So really creating that separation so that there wasn't that opportunity or feeling like I got to correct whatever I'm seeing because I'm not seeing it. So unless somebody calls me in, I don't need to come rushing over.
Right. So I think that's what we learned to do is like, we're not going to like come in and tell you you're doing it wrong unless you're asking us for help. And then I think the other thing that I'll hear too from people is like, well, then the baby cries and all of a sudden they're like, oh, the baby's hungry, is you got to handle this or whatever. And so feeling like they get put off,
you're always the default.
You're the default. Exactly. So I think it's like working out like, what are some things to try then, because what happens when I can't be the default, and so working out a plan where, okay, we're going to try these things, or you're going to try these things, because I can't always be the default,
Yeah.
And I think it's like kind of like that pre-planning and not like in that moment, because when you're in that moment and the baby's crying and it feels like stressful, is not the time to be like, hey, so I think if you did this, because we're stressed out. And when we're stressed out, we don't usually think from like that rational part of our brain that's like, oh, well, that would be helpful. Most of us don't. Most of us can be activated.
Yeah. And I think the other part, the partner that's actually going to be taking care of the baby at that point has to accept that, okay, I'm not going to ask for help, right? This is my time to take care of the baby. I have a friend who his wife really micromanaged him, and he was complaining to us at work one day about, she asked me to do the bottle, and all I asked her, like, to get the bottle ready to sterilize it, and all I asked her to do was to get it out of the cabinet and put the pan on the water. And we're like, what exactly were you doing in this? I think it's a two-way street, right? One has to back off and the other has to step up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I remember too, like Ben, like I would like come in to the rescue at 2 a.m. when he just, you know, most recently couldn't get our son down. We don't remember anything when our daughter was born.
That's a while ago.
That was so long ago. But like, I'd come to the rescue and be like, stop doing that. I don't need help. I'd be like, but I think you're too afraid to ask for help. I think that you don't want to ask for help. He's like, no, I really don't need help. Like, stop. So we make up these stories in our heads of, you know, like, he's too afraid to ask for help. So I still need to come in and rescue, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's good to talk about those situations. Again, not in the heat of the moment, like, you know, like a story in our book, we talk about how it was like that, you know, 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and we get in this like fight about who's doing more, you know, who got up with the baby the last time or whatever. It's like, that wasn't the time to talk about it, but it's good to talk about it later, like the next day, and be like, hey, I'm feeling like I'm taking on more of a load. And he's like, I feel like I'm taking on more of a load, or this is what I think is going on. And you can have that conversation in a way that's not, you know, that in that moment is hard.
It's not as heated.
Not as heated.
Yeah. And that's a good topic that we run over a few times too in the book, and we've talked about this a lot before too, because we're still guilty of it at times, is keeping score. And you keep this silent kind of tally in your head where you're like, well, I did it this time, and then I did it this time, she only did it this time, so it's 2-1 now, you know, I'm owed this. But you never even communicated that. There's never been an agreement on who does.
You had a blowout, so that means I get 2 normal poops.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because how do you keep score? There's no good, and then there's things that you do that the other person never sees anyway. And so how are you keeping score? It's never going to turn out well if we're keeping score against each other. We need to be like, okay, we're on the same team. And if I'm feeling like I need help or I'm overwhelmed or whatever, I need to let you know, but not assume like, well, I know I did more, so you better step up. And I'm never telling you I need you to step up for me.
Yeah. And that's just good practice just for relationship in general, not necessarily with baby, you know, because like that situation is not going to last forever.
Right.
But the communication skills that you have during that, you know, communicating your expectations and getting that feedback, that's going to last your entire relationship.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. We've all got busy, complicated lives, right? And there's things that, just like Catherine was saying, we don't see necessarily what the other parent is doing when we're not there. Yeah. We don't necessarily see I don't know what she's going through every day in every session that she has, how she's, you know, running her business. She's not in my office. So what we have to understand is that we both have these very busy lives, and it's about, hey, when I need help, I'm going to ask for it. I'm not going to be mad at you because you didn't know to come help me or to take that whatever project or task on because I was busy. So it's it's always about communication.
Right.
Yeah, we're sometimes writing a story in our head, and we're always the hero of our own story,
and or the victim, the hero
or victim. Yes, we're the center of it one way or the other.
Yes.
And I think we found it important to not only talk about the support that we need, and knowing how to ask for that in a good way. You know, and not saying, hey, you never do this, and instead say something about, you know, I'd really appreciate a little bit of help with this. And we all need breaks, right? We all need some support. And sometimes I think we tend to try to do a little bit too much ourselves and take too much on. Have you seen that quite a bit too with some of the people that you've talked to?
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's like, or, you know, because I think one of the things happens is like, oh, well, you know, I know he's really busy at work, so I'm going to take on because I think he's stressed. Again, I'm telling a story, and then I'm getting stressed because I'm trying to do all these other things. And, you know, maybe maybe he can't handle this, you know, because we feel like, oh, we have to compensate because they're working and maybe I'm not working as much, or I'm at home still or whatever. So things are harder for them than it is for me because I've got the easy job at home with the baby, which is, as we know, not. I used to be jealous. Like he would tell me how he'd go to work. He's like, I'm having lunch with so-and-so. I'd be like, you guys have lunch with adults and have conversations. Like I'd be like so jealous about that, like silly little, things. And then it's like, okay, well then where am I going to find support and, outlets for myself too? It's
Exactly.
if I'm here at home, but,
and we're home together right now. We have been for the last 18 months, since Ben was grounded. Whereas he was from travel. Whereas, like before our son was born, he was traveling to all these places and like, having some scotch on the rocks and steak and stuff. And I'm like, I'm here with a 7-year-old having mac and cheese, and stuff. And, kind of just making up these stories in my head about how luxurious it must be for him to be living out of a suitcase.
Yes, right. In a hotel bed.
Yeah, it's great.
But that last 18 months, we've kind of seen each other and what each other does and have that appreciation and kind of go back and forth on what we call lead parent. We both work, I don't work full time, but I do homeschool our daughter and I take care of the baby. The times that I do work, the nanny is here, but he's able to kind of to see all the different things that I have to juggle and be able to show that appreciation. And at the same time, I've been hearing him talk on the phone to clients and I'm like, who's this guy? He sounds so smart.
Apparently I don't the rest of the time.
Well, that's the other thing. Like I work with couples on too. It's like, we always are asking for things or, maybe saying things that we're not happy about, but it's also taking the time to like show appreciation, like you've mentioned, but just like even say like, hey, that felt really good when you picked that up before you came home, or you did the dishes and, normally that's my job. Like that felt awesome, or, whatever it is, or gosh, I really loved how you talked to our kid today, when they were upset about X, Y, and Z. And I think it's like, acknowledging the things that you do like and appreciate about them, especially during, things are just so stressful in the world. And I think it's easy to get into this place of the negativity and stuff. So I think we've got to like change the story, right? We've got to also appreciate and acknowledge the good things that are happening too, I think, to help us cope with the difficulty of how things are.
Yeah.
Right. We got to make sure we spend the same amount of time on the positive as we do the negatives sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, just to echo what you guys were saying, I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic is being able to actually see each other in a way that we never would have before. Like I certainly can't hear Catherine when she's in her sessions, but she is doing them mostly virtual. So I know that she goes in and spends that hour or 50 minutes and it's like she's fully present, and that's hard to do it and then take a 10-minute break and maybe do it again. That's really a hard job. And I knew that, but to see it is a different thing.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I feel like our time went really fast. We wanted to keep it somewhat brief. We have a lot more questions and conversation we could have, and maybe we could schedule a part 2 at some point soon. But we really appreciate the conversation. I hate to wrap it up so quickly. It feels like it just zipped right by.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So we do what is called a call to order at the end of each of our podcasts. And that's basically the action steps for our listeners. So this week's call to order, of course, is to check out the book Happy with Baby by Catherine O'Brien. So definitely check out the website, happywithbaby.com, to learn more. You can get the book on Amazon or wherever you buy books. We encourage you to take away some tips for yourself and implement some of this advice to your family situation. Everyone's dynamic is different, but you can take pieces of today's discussion and make it your own as long as you're growing.
Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So thanks so much for coming, Catherine and Rick. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
If you're ready for your marriage and family dynamic to thrive and not just survive, all it takes is 20 minutes or less joining us each week. It begins with a journey of self-improvement while you sit in the carpool lane commute to work, squeeze in a workout, or get halfway through folding that laundry pile. Be sure to check out the blog at thefamilyorder.com and follow us on social media at The Family Order. If you're ready to start your journey, be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every